lot of stuff going on. He does not want to have a lot of sacks or a lot of hits on the quarterback this year. The Bucs have to protect Tom Brady from the inside out. That means protect him from the inside. If you're another team, a defense, you're trying to go straight up the middle at him.
All right, so you're worried about that. I'm worried about that. Bruce Arians, not so worried about that. He was on First Take yesterday. Here's what he said about Brady and the Bucs. Listen.
Watching him at practice every day, he's throwing the ball better than he has in like 10 years. And when he's on the practice field, the energy level in the whole building goes up. So not worried about Tom. That's one guy you don't have to worry about. This is probably the best roster we've had since I've been there. I feel very, very solid with the offensive line. That's not going to be an issue. Plus, Tom knows how to handle a young offensive line. He's not going to stand back there and hold the ball very long. And so the talent on the roster from top to bottom is outstanding.
Okay, so that's what he said. Is the talent on the roster from top to bottom outstanding?
It's hard to feel as confident as Bruce is, only because you don't have a Chris Godwin. You've had guys retire, you've had guys get injured on the offensive line, and as Nico just pointed out, the interior of the offensive line is the biggest concern if you're Tom Brady, who kind of stands there like a statue, right? What is Bruce Arians going to say? But here's the thing. We are all concerned about this Bucs team, but this is why a Tom Brady is here, to sort of, like, when you think about how he's viewed in that building, like Cameron Brate, their tight end, had called him an omnipresent being. Like that speaks to the intangibles that Brady brings. Whenever he's on the field, you know we got a shot because 12's here. And guys talked about even him missing those 11 days of training camp. They talked about how his presence was missed. I think internally, they're a lot happier with their roster. They have recent draft picks from 2021 this year on the offensive line, unproven, but guys that they are high on. We just haven't seen them actually in games. So they have a chance to prove that they're good.
Well, that's something they may know that we don't. Nico, when he got there were a lot of names we knew. You looked on the backs of the jerseys and you knew all these guys. There are fewer of those guys now. So I guess that is the question. I'll ask it to you the same way. Bruce Arians sounds incredibly optimistic. Are you as optimistic for your buddy Brady as he is?
Not as optimistic because I'm not on the payroll. So again, imagine if I walked to a Imagine this. You walk into a car dealership and you're looking at a car and the salesman walks up to you and he goes, man, that's not really built well. That's not a well-built car. It's not reliable. It's falling apart a little bit. You wouldn't know where the name brand on anything if things aren't made the right way. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to walk up to you and say, this is the nicest, the best built car you'll ever put your eyes on. This is what you need. So again, if you're working for somebody, you're going to build it up. You're going to boost it up. You're going to say whatever you got to say to make sure that everyone is on board and believes that it's the best thing yet. It's the best thing yet. So again, Bruce Arians, obviously he's still working for Tampa. He's going to talk it up. So we'll see how they work. We'll see the offensive line. We'll see how they look. But again, there's less names than there were last year, big names. So maybe guys that we don't know about step up. So that's soon to be seen.
It's an interesting scenario to me because the perception, I think, was that Brady wanted to leave New England in part because too much was on him. It was all about him needing to get it done. It feels, before the season kicks off, like he's in a similar situation now. We'll see. All right, second round U.S. Open coverage continues today. 11 more hours on ESPN starting noon Eastern. Want to make sure you know that Serena plays tonight in what is her swan song at the U.S. Open, and we'll see if she can keep the dream alive tonight. She's playing the second seed, Annette Kontaveit. It's a primetime 7 Eastern match. You know all eyes will be on this. See if Serena gets through this, then something special may very well happen over the next week or so. You can catch every point live tonight on the ESPN app as well. Coming up, what kind of team does Jerry Jones have this season? The Cowboys owner tells why he sees stars all around. We'll talk about Dallas, and we have this from Sneaky Hembo. Which member of the Get Up family is going to be getting significantly less sleep in the foreseeable? To that, I repeat, just someone responded, he wants more. They already offered that. Lamar Jackson himself responded, no, they didn't. That's Lamar, breaking news, real time on Twitter, telling us exactly where these negotiations aren't. And in case you thought that might still leave some room for interpretation, Someone named Will posted a picture of Lamar Jackson in a Dolphins uniform, and Lamar Jackson liked it. In this day and age, that is tantamount to demanding a trade. I don't know what else to say.
Oh,
Kimberly Martin, these do not sound like the tweets of a happy person, right, of a happy Raven. This is a guy who is telling the world, this is what this team's not offering me. This is a place where I could see myself being very happy someday. Lamar Jackson is sending a message, isn't he?
Dear Ravens, please get this deal done, because look at what I have to deal with. I am tired. I don't know. Like, Lamar, Steve Bisciotti, sit down at the table and do this $250 million guaranteed so we can all get on with our lives. I think until this deal is done, until Lamar gets paid, we will be talking about whether Lamar wants to be in Baltimore, when, in all honesty, I think Lamar is really just having fun. I'm trying to be the voice of reason here. I don't think this Florida boy is really saying, I want to go to Miami. I think he just liked to tweet. I think he's having some fun. And Mark Andrews, his tight end, has said this to the media, like he's having fun with all of this. But until this deal is done, it leaves, we're going to fill the silence with our own speculation. And that is why, dear Ravens, it is imperative that before week 1 starts, you guys get this done.
Are they going to? Kmart, simply put, are they going to? Because at the end, this may be fun and it may not be fun. His idea of fun may be different from my idea of fun. Okay? I'm not going to quarrel about that. But what I'm going to say is that this does not sound like something you post if you think you're on the 1-yard line of getting a $230 million guaranteed contract.
I think Lamar just wants it clear, no, I was not offered $250. I think he wants to set the record straight in some ways that he can. I am not optimistic that it gets done by week 1.
And then what?
Then this is my life for the next year, that we will be talking about Lamar. I think then it gets into the situation of, like, the Ravens have control from the standpoint that they can franchise him multiple times. They can go the Kirk Cousins Washington route, which nobody wants to see, because both sides want to be together. But once the season starts and they pause negotiations, then everything's on the table. And you know, if they don't want to pay Lamar, somebody will. That is the reality for Baltimore. Somebody will pay this man, and they should.
Look, we live in a world now, Ninko, and of course you played not that long ago, but things change pretty fast in the world in which we live today. You lived in a world where the only reaction would be, don't set foot on that field without getting all the guaranteed money, blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden, in a world where Kirk Cousins, who you just mentioned, without being the best quarterback in the NFL, has made by far the most money of anyone in the NFL in recent years. And then Dak Prescott suffered the worst thing that could possibly happen, a terrible injury while on the franchise tag, and still managed to get the enormous contract. Are we okay, and by we I guess I mean, are you okay with Lamar Jackson playing this year without a contract extension?
That's a really hard question. That's a really tough one, because if I'm the agent, I'm looking at
He doesn't have an agent.
That's the problem.
I know.
I'm
saying if I was his agent, because he doesn't have an agent. So if you're his agent, you're trying to get a deal done. If he doesn't have an agent, who's his voice of reason? Who's helping him along the way and going out there and playing? Me personally, even if I had 150, 200 million, that's so hard to turn it down. It's tough because of the risk involved in his style of play. We know that he's a physical guy. We know he runs. He's always going to be athletic. He's always going to be out of the pocket. That's how he plays football. So, again, there's more risk involved in him playing than a guy that's, say, a pocket quarterback who isn't going to be scrambling and looking for first downs. So, again, I personally would want him to sign a contract and not step foot on a field until he had a contract. But this isn't up to the agent now. This is up to Lamar and his family, whoever's helping him out, to make that decision. So it's going to be whatever he decides to do. You got to say, hey, I support him, because if he goes out there and plays, bets on himself, and wins big, he's going to make $300 million. So I think the only thing you worry about is injury, which is a realistic thing in football, obviously.
These numbers just keep going up, right? They're not going in the opposite direction. I mean, these numbers are going to keep going up. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert next year, these numbers are going to go through the roof. All right, we'll see where that goes. Meanwhile, Kmart, a lot of news out there. Let's run the hurry up through a bunch of it, starting in Buffalo.